Hello and welcome to today's Digital Dealer webinar. Today's webinar is sponsored by VinSolutions and it's titled How to Improve Retention with Customer Loyalty Programs. Today's webinar presenter is Brian Schmidt, Digital Marketing Manager. The webinar will run approximately 1 hour with a question and answer session at the end. Please welcome Brian Schmidt.
Hi everyone, and thanks Santos for the introduction. So I've been with VinSolutions for about 4 years and have worked with dealerships to target, to design, distribute, and track direct marketing campaigns. So my major focus is on understanding the campaign's goal ahead of time, making sure we're hitting the right groups of customers, and ensuring that the offers are clear, that they're compelling, and they're relevant. So before Vin, I used CRMs to run B2B campaigns for about 6 years, and I followed those exact same principles. If you've attended one of my webinars previously, you'll notice some of the similarities because I'm a big believer in following a marketing process. And so today, I want to focus on that process and use it to improve retention with your customers by using loyalty programs. Loyalty programs are a fascinating topic to me because they can do so much to create advocates for your store, but if you're not careful, they can also just end up as forgotten cards in your customers' wallets or their back pockets. So today I'll walk through how to develop a program that's both beneficial to you and to your customers. There are 3 service challenges at a dealership that loyalty programs are specifically designed to address. Well, first, there's the issue of customer retention, where your customers just aren't coming back for service or they never came in the first place after purchase. There's the problem of frequency of visits, where your customers aren't coming in as often as they should or as they could be. And finally, there's an issue with lift and repair orders. Your customers are coming, but they're just not spending enough. They're not spending above the bare minimum. Unfortunately, the 3 specific features that customers want out of loyalty programs, they address each of those challenges. And before jumping into what those features are, I want to make sure we all understand why we're choosing to use a loyalty program to solve those challenges. Customers don't feel brands reciprocate loyalty. So 62% of customers think the brands they're most loyal to just aren't rewarding them enough for that loyalty. The most classic example that I like to use is your cable company. How many of us have been with our cable providers for years, only to see our bills just creep up and up, while new customers are getting months' worth of discounted services? Are your customers, are they feeling the same way? Is there an incentive for them to keep coming back to you, or is it better for them to bounce from place to place using coupons? So let's walk through why these programs help solve this problem and why they matter to both you and to the customer. I'll be transparent about loyalty programs up front. They take a lot of work, so they really need to be worth your while. So what exactly can you expect to get out of a loyalty program? Why does it matter for you? You're going to retain much happier customers, which is going to lead to higher CSI ratings for you over time. You're going to save on marketing and you're going to save on sales costs. So customer retention is so much cheaper than customer acquisition, and a little bit of effort goes a lot longer with current customers than it does with prospects. You'll also start to improve the reputation of your dealership. And that can lead to more referrals, which in turn leads to more sales. If you start to incorporate a social element with your program, this can also lead to a much better, more visible online reputation for your dealership. Rewarding customers with more also gets them to spend more. And this is partially because you may be proportionately rewarding them based on the amount they spend. It's also because people have this natural inclination to spend more at businesses that they like. So over time, as you play with your rewards and adjust your program, you're going to start to build a clearer picture of what's working for your customers and what isn't. You'll gain insight from that data that you can use to make not only your program more effective, but all your marketing campaigns and initiatives more effective. So finally, your dealerships, right now, they're perceived by customers as the most expensive place to get your car maintained. These programs is as a way for your customers to find you more valuable, and we want to work to change that perception. What are your customers going to get out of loyalty programs? Why are they so important to them? They need to feel like they're getting a benefit from where they spend their money outside of just the products or the services that they're purchasing. They want to feel like you care about them and you care about their choice to spend money with you. And finally, those with a higher reward status, they're going to feel even more important. It's really easy for a customer to feel like individually that they don't matter to you. But loyalty programs teach them otherwise, that that's not true, that individually they are valued, they are important, and that you do care. If you've heard me present before, you know I think it's incredibly important that your dealership delivers on its promise of good customer service. How customers feel when they interact with you is a really big deal. You have to make sure each of those interactions is a happy one. Why? Because you're 14 times more likely to sell to a happy customer. And that's really the power of a loyalty program. Not only are you spending less on customer retention, but you're increasing your likelihood to sell to those customers. Customers are also more likely to talk you up on social media or in person with their friends and family. So they effectively become advocates for your store. That advocacy, it generates a type of credibility that no other marketing is going to be able to do for you. And when you start putting this program together, someone is going to ask you if it would be easier and if it would be cheaper just to go ahead and use coupons. Yeah, it would be. But coupons and loyalty programs, they accomplish two different things and really should not be considered interchangeable. So there's several key differences between a loyal customer and a coupon customer that I want to go over. Loyal customers, they control when they use rewards. It's on their terms, and often it's on the services or the products that they want. The choice becomes almost more of a habit to do business with you. You don't have to go through that decision-making process every time about what service do they need or where are they going to go. You just become their automatic choice. And they become to come back to you because you appreciate that business and you build a relationship. Couponers, on the other hand, they come in with coupons before the expiration date. And that's going to start to lead to peaks and valleys in your revenue stream. Worse, customers come in with an expired coupon, and that generates just a bad customer experience. Also remember, you're not the only one sending out these coupons. They're getting them from all other dealerships and service providers. So then they start to make a decision based on price. And that's just going to lead to you reducing prices to stay competitive. So additionally, when they do come in, they come in only when they have a coupon, and that's going to lead to lower profitability for you. As an example, I like to talk about JCPenney, which its entire business is built on this model of coupon customers. Customers only go to JCPenney when they have a coupon. So their entire customer relationship, it's just built on price. We want to build a relationship with you that's based on service and it's based on value. Now, coupons can be helpful to attract new business or to reclaim lost customers, but you really shouldn't rely on them to build loyalty. I mentioned earlier that there are three challenges that with your service center that coincide with the three things customers want from a loyalty program. So as a reminder, those three challenges were retention, frequency, and lift. The three things that your customers want out of your programs are instant gratification, and that helps solve the retention challenge. Customers want an immediate reason to show up, and maybe it's cash back on a purchase, or maybe it's they're made aware of a discount for a future purchase. Second item they want out of a program are progressive rewards. This helps you solve the frequency challenge. So customers want to be proportionally rewarded the more they spend. It becomes kind of a game with them. Customers try to get to the top tier of your program because it makes them feel elite. And they do that by visiting more often, which leads us to accomplish that frequency goal. And finally, they're looking for a personalized program. That's what is going to help you generate lift. The idea here is that you provide rewards, rebates, or discounts on products that each individual wants. And that encourages them to buy more than they may have originally intended. It's meaningful to the customer when you show them items they might be interested in because it shows that you know them. And you can only do that if you have a relationship. It's meaningful to you because you start to sell more per ticket. Rewards and personalization in a program are so important that 75% of customers stay in a program just for that reason, that they get rewards that are relevant and that are meaningful to them. And just as important, 81% stay because the program is easy to understand. So I think we've all been part of a convoluted or poorly communicated program, and the result is that we don't use it. So if customers stay in a program because it's easy to understand, then conversely, they must leave because it's confusing. And this is a pitfall that I want to bring up now so that we watch out for. 62% of customers stop doing business with a brand because of a poor customer service experience. Loyalty programs, they're no real exception here. Your program needs to be clear. It needs to be reasonable. Your customers, their experience with the program should always be a positive one. Remember that stat about happy customers being 14 times more likely to purchase? That's really our goal here, is to generate a program that makes them happy. So I think we've covered the why of loyalty programs, both for you and for your customers. So let's dive into what they actually look like before finally getting into how to create one. We're going to address a few different types of programs today, ranging from simple punch cards to more complicated points and cashback programs. I'm going to give you the pros and cons to each, but you'll ultimately have to decide for yourself which is right for your dealership based on the resources that you have available and the different challenges that you face. So we're all familiar with this. It's popular with sub shops all around the world. It's the punch card. There's really not a whole lot of explanation here. I won't spend too much time on it, but typically a customer buys a certain number of something, an oil change in this example, and then they get their final one free. These are very simple to manage, and they're easy for customers to understand. They're also very low cost to operate. The downside is that they're really not progressive. There's no progressive reward component, and they're not personalized. So they don't really do much to solve either your frequency or your lift problems. Now, if you're struggling to get customers to come back for an oil change after their first time or after having never scheduled, this is a pretty easy place to start. Points programs, they're a lot more common than they used to be, so customers are becoming more familiar with them. They can be straightforward. When you spend money, you get points, and the amount of points depends on the amount that you spend. Customers then choose to redeem those points for whatever awards you choose to make available. This is a pretty easy program to tier, and it's easy to add rewards of varying value. So what I'd recommend is start with a catalog of rewards and then have an associated point value for each one. We kept our graphic here pretty simple, but this could be as specific or as generic as you want. By being more specific with your rewards, offering individual service instead of a discount off of a general service, you can start to offer services that are outside your routine maintenance programs that customers come in for. By doing this and by seeing what rewards they redeem, you can start to learn more about your customers. You can learn more about what they're interested in. And ultimately, you can start to change how they perceive you. The downside here is that points don't really have an inherent value. Points don't mean anything by themselves. So if you go with this program, you need to make sure to communicate to your customers regularly how many points they have and what those points actually mean. What can they get with the points now? And this is important. What are they close to being able to get if they had just a few more points? That encourages them to either come back again or to buy an additional item. Now, if you're looking for a good example to kind of base this off of, those of you familiar with Walgreens know that they have a very similar program. They give dollar rewards, which can be spent on anything at different point levels. And I do want to walk through this because it gives you an idea of what a progressive program looks like. So with Walgreens, at 5,000 points, you get a $5 reward. And then you get $10 at 10,000 points. But once you start to spend more, you start to see the value of coming back. So at 18,000 points, you get $20. At 40,000 points, you get $50. So you can start to understand the progressive nature of this program. The base level of this program, they need to accumulate a full 1,000 points for a dollar. But at the higher levels, it's only 800 points per dollar. So this kind of program, it's rewarding your most loyal, most profitable, most dedicated customers with the most rewards. Now, cashback programs, those meet all the different requirements that we've been talking about. Customers immediately get an incentive when they come in. They get more incentive the more they spend. And also the rewards are completely customizable. Your customers can spend them at anything they want in your store, in your service bay or at your parts and accessories area. You'll need to follow some of the same steps as the points program and make sure to communicate to your customers just how much they have banked, how much they have available to them. One issue is that while it does give the customer total freedom to spend their rewards on whatever they want, that's not necessarily useful if the customer is only viewing you just as a place to get oil changes. So in this case, their perception of you and what you offer is limiting their purchases. So when you can continue to communicate your program balance to your customers over time, make sure to highlight some of the things that they could use those rewards on that they might not be taking advantage of right now. The department store Target, I think, is a great example of this. So its loyalty program is deceptively simple. You get a 5% discount for using the Target debit card on all purchases, plus coupons for future purchases. They get printed for you every time you ring up at the register. So what Target's doing is they sacrifice 5% on their margin. But look at what they're getting out of it. Target gets all that data that it collects on those purchases, and it uses them to generate coupons for customers towards items that the customer might be interested in. And that encourages future business, and it builds awareness of items that customers aren't buying. So the result, you get happy customers who are now spending more at Target. That's really what we want to get out of this program for you. So I think we can all agree that programs like this, they sound pretty great. Customers are happier with you, and they're happier to give you more money. And hopefully they're telling their friends and their family to give you more money too. So why doesn't everyone do this? There are a few reasons. They're afraid of the cost. And not just the cost of the rewards, but of the staffing. It's time consuming. And it takes a lot of thought to come up with the program. You have to maintain it over time. Who's a member? What rewards do they have? What are your rewards? It can be tough to track success, especially initially, which we'll get into. And often, people just don't know where to start. So about that last item, where do you start? So me, I'm a people and I'm a process guy. I like to know who's going to do it and how are they going to do it. So let's start at the beginning. Identify opportunities. Where does your dealership stand to benefit most from a loyalty program? We're going to start by looking at groups who represent the challenges we talked about earlier. So start segmenting the customers within your database or your CRM. Who used to service with you but has either stopped or who never serviced with you? Those are your retention opportunities. Who is only coming in a few times a year or less, realistically? Those are your frequency opportunities. And finally, who might be coming in regularly but only for just the bare minimum maintenance requirements, whose average ticket is low? Those are going to be your lift opportunities. You'll use your CRM or other marketing software in conjunction to really do the heavy lifting of your segmentation here. And you should know before going further in exactly what kind of opportunity you're looking at. As I mentioned, this is going to take a lot of work, so identifying the opportunity ahead of time is going to make sure that it is worth it for you. You're going to need access to your customer's contact information for self-explanatory reasons. You're going to have to contact them. But also you are going to need to know about their buying history for sales and service, for parts and accessories. And for that buying history, specifically, we do want to know when they came in so we can figure out their frequency, what they bought, and that's going to give us an idea of the general awards that your customer base is interested in. And then finally, how much they cost, so we can start to identify your profitability. So in your CRM, you're going to create customer segments. Then you'll work with your campaign manager or your other marketing professional to promote your program to each group, focusing on the program, aspects of the program that are associated with each group. So your customers that either used to service and have stopped or never service, they need to hear about the immediate benefits of being a program member. They need to hear about that instant gratification. Your infrequent customers, they need to hear about the benefits of getting their maintenance and other work done at your dealership, rather than getting some work done with you and some elsewhere. They need to hear about the progressive reward component about your program. And finally, regular but those low profit customers, they need to hear about the other options at your dealership. What warranties or accessories or other parts could they benefit from that they're not using now? That's the lift opportunity. So I have a couple filters that I've set up using our Target Pro product to show you how to do this. The exact steps are going to vary for you depending on what product you are using, but the general concept, it really should be about the same. So first, we've got a filter here for your frequent service customers. So with a simple segment like this, where we're looking at the total number of ROs in the last 12 months, you can use this to set up a couple of different emails. One, for anyone who's on this list and who is in your loyalty program, you can send them a balance update based on their recently completed RO. This one's set to July, but you'll probably want to have this go out, a balance update, almost immediately after the service is done. So by adjusting the number of completed ROs in this filter, either up or down, you can jump quickly between different tiers in your program, who's getting service the most frequently versus the least. Now, for everyone who meets this criteria and is not a program member, it's a really easy way to show them what the program could do if they had been members. So you can use this to identify what your frequency opportunity is and then promote it to those customers to get them signed up. So second, there's a filter here for high value service. And this is another one you can use to identify customers who are on track for spending a good chunk at your dealership throughout the year. It's another opportunity for you to identify who's not on your program and then let them know what benefit they could have had if they had been. For those who are on your program, then make sure you give them a balance of their rewards. Depending on how you structure your tiers, you could combine these segments and look for customers who have been in at least 3 times this year, who have spent $500 or $600. Segments like these are great for identifying opportunities, as well as for you to start to identify your results once your programs have run. Ultimately, the number of people in these lists, in these filters, is going to start to go up for you throughout the life of your program. So now you have an idea of who your program is going to affect. Step 2, what do you want the end result to be? Set some goals. Be realistic when setting these and make sure that they're aligning with the goals that your business is trying to achieve overall. We want to build strong long-term relationships with our customers. And we want to expand your value with them and the way that you appeal to them, the way they perceive you. We want to start to collect information that we can use to generate insights for other campaigns. Based on rewards redemptions, you're going to get insight that's not just valuable for your program, but all of your marketing activities. You want to start to generate higher engagement rates with your communications. That's really easy to do with rewards notifications because they don't come off as just a sales opportunity for you. You're communicating something of interest and of relevancy to your customers. And finally, we're going to work to increase the dealership's revenue. So in the short term, that is going to be in your service bay. But long term, you're going to start to see increased sales opportunities as well as people show up in your bay more frequently. The revenue goals that you're going to address will be done in this order: retention, frequency, and finally lift. You're going to start by retaining customers, then by getting them to come in more and more often, and then finally expand what they buy when they do come in. So again, be reasonable. Start by aiming for a modest increase, call it 5% before expanding. So what I recommend doing is piloting your program with a small group of customers that meets each of these challenges, then get their feedback before you launch it out to everyone else. This is going to benefit you in a couple of ways. One, it's going to let you make tweaks to the program to make it as effective as possible. But two, it's going to give you a more realistic expectation of what you can expect in terms of results. Over time, as you run the program, you'll start to see some improvements in some of your key metrics. Your CSI scores will begin to improve as customers develop a more positive outlook about your dealership. You'll start to see those increases in both frequency and ticket size that we discussed. Next, we're going to focus on putting a process in place and making sure that your entire team is on board. It's important to get buy-in with all the key players at your dealership to generate the enthusiasm it's going to take to get customers on your program. So start by identifying who's going to manage your program and what exactly is this person going to manage. Let's talk a little bit about your loyalty program manager. So what does this person look like for you? Your loyalty program manager needs to be familiar with both your CRM and reporting. They're going to be spending a lot of time making sure that your program has the desired effects, and if they are, why? What's the driving factor there? If they're not meeting your goals, why not? What can we do to improve? You'll need to be familiar with your service offerings. That means not just the type of services available, but the types that are required or recommended by your manufacturer and when. And then finally, they need to be familiar with the financial side of service. What service is the most profitable for your for you? This last bullet, loyalty program experience is going to really help you here. And this may seem kind of obvious. Experience is always going to be helpful, right? Well, I put this bullet here because this job is going to seem like it might be a good job for someone else you might have on staff. Can it be your campaign manager? No, it really shouldn't be, and we're going to talk about a few reasons why. There is, of course, going to be some overlap between your loyalty program manager and your campaign manager. They're both going to understand customer segmentation and how to measure results, and they are certainly going to work closely together. But your campaign manager, that person's a communicator at heart. They're going to be more focused on reaching your customers and what message is going to them and what that message looks like creatively. Plus, they're also going to be focused on acquiring you new customers. It's just really a different area of expertise for the two of them. Your program manager really needs to be primarily focused on the program. So that person's going to monitor what your rewards are, who's receiving them and when they're receiving them. They're going to need to understand what the process is for redemption. And they're going to need to check the financials to make sure that your dealership is profitable. Finally, they're going to need to understand what the end results of your program are. Did you accomplish what you set out to do? So if you can find someone with loyalty program experience, that's great, that's helpful. But what if you can't? How do you go about doing everything that we just said? Start by meeting with all the key players who are going to be involved in your program. Obviously, it's the program manager. Also grab whoever's responsible for managing the dealership's finances. We're going to make sure that they're available to determine the impact of this program on your dealership's bottom line. You'll need the service manager to be present to give insight into the different rewards and service offerings that might resonate with your customer base. Your GSM, they're going to need to be present for several reasons. To make sure, A, that your sales team is promoting the loyalty program during and at the end of every sale, getting people to sign up. But B, also they need to be aware of all the additional sales opportunities that are going to come from your service drive, and then of any rewards that may be applicable to vehicle purchases. The campaign manager, this is going to work with your program manager on the communications and the promotion. And they're going to be pretty tight throughout this entire process. So the purpose of this meeting is to have a very clear idea of what your incentives are going to be. You'll need to understand which benefits appeal most to your customer base. So be prepared to analyze your current service offerings and which ones are being used the most. What services are being used versus those that aren't, that your customers might be interested in if they knew about them. When the program manager walks out of that meeting, he or she should know what rewards are feasible and the impact they'll have on your bottom line. So be clear about what you can and can't discount, and what services or products the dealership wants to promote because they're most profitable for you. You want to make a hard decision about the profitability you can give away today to build the lifetime value of your customer. And don't forget, before you launch a program, calculate the total cost of it. That way you know exactly what you might be getting into before you begin promoting it to customers. So to do this, take a look at your highest liability scenario. What does that look like for you? You can take all the repair orders for 2015 or whatever your most recent full year is, then assume that all your customers are on the program that you just established. Calculate the total cost of that, either the total cost of the rewards or the cashback amount, and that includes staffing as well, staffing and promotion. Take that total cost and then compare it to the goals we talked about that you want to achieve, and determine whether or not it's worth it to you to run the program. Don't necessarily let this scare you off of the program. You just need to be able to go into it with your eyes fully open. Step 4, for me, I think it's so much fun because it's a great opportunity for the entire dealership to generate just a ton of enthusiasm about the program and a lot of enthusiasm about your customers. So during your initial launch, incorporate the announcement of your program into advertising and your direct email communications. And make sure that there is a clear and thorough page on your site that describes the program and the benefits. Include information about the program on your AutoTrader or Cars.com listings if it's applicable. You'll include signage in your dealership for the life of your program, yes, but it needs to be much more prominent during the launch to generate that excitement. Make sure your salespeople are promoting the benefits of the program during both the sale And then afterwards, immediately sign those customers up while they're getting them scheduled for their first service appointment. Service reps should get in on the action too. Get your customers to sign up prior to closing the RO so that their very first time they immediately see the benefit of your program. As customers sign up, start to build a plan to inform them what exactly are they getting. This could be a monthly email that summarizes the rewards that your customers accrued. It also reminds them how to claim those rewards, and it gives them some examples of what they could receive if they had just a little bit more in the bank. So this is an easy, valuable way to get in front of your customers on a monthly basis without it appearing like you're just in it for a sale. Remember, the goal of these communications is to show the value of the program and to keep it top of mind with your customers. So include the current value of the rewards, how close they are to the next level. Let them know how much they've saved to date. The more value and the more personalization you show with these communications, the more meaningful it's going to be, and the more likely they'll actually use it. So what does this look like in practice? It does not really have to be very complicated. So here's a very simple example, and I think it conveys all the information we just talked about. We've doctored it just a little bit to avoid calling out the real dealership. But this email, it goes out shortly after the RO is closed. It very quickly states what the customer just earned, 185 points, and how close they are to getting something free. What's great about this program is that they pull close to a free oil change. It's just 15 points away. So the customer is now faced with a choice. They can wait until their next service, which may be worth far more than 15 points, or they can buy something else now that they might not have considered otherwise just to get up to that level. Now this is the kind of list that we're talking about. What you'll need to do on your end is make sure that that free oil change is worth whatever the customers are spending to get those points. And finally, step 5, measure your results to determine your success and determine areas where you can improve. Did you accomplish your goals? Did you set out what you wanted to do? Are more customers scheduling first and second appointments with you? Have you increased the average number of appointments per person during the year? And finally, has your ticket order increased over time? To determine the ROI of the program, we'll need to calculate the additional service revenue from the first full year versus the previous year, and then deduct your operating costs. So in examining additional revenue, you want to attribute all the revenue from your lower customer churn rate. So how much revenue is coming from that additional businesses? Those are those the new first and second service appointment customers above what you used to get. You also look at the number of visits above your average from people who are currently on the program. And then lastly, look at your increase in items purchased using your rewards. Your operating costs, you're going to be a combination of your staffing costs, which will primarily be the program manager, but also the cost of any rewards you offer, be it cashback or discounts or free items. Don't forget to include your advertising and promotion costs. You think of that signage that we talked about earlier. This cost is going to be at its peak when you first launch the program, and you're needing to inform all of your existing customers that it exists now. So with all those numbers put together, you should start to get a very clear idea of what revenue the program is generating for you. It is going to be a little bit harder to quantify some of those increases in vehicle sales. It's going to be a byproduct of getting more people into your service bay more frequently, but it's still something to watch for. One final note on program ROI. So on average, loyalty programs break even at the 2-year point and then become fully and much more profitable by the 3rd year. And this is partially because promoting the initial program carries some heavy expense, so there's a lot of costs involved in that first year, but also because it does take some time for the increased frequency and the lift to see your returns. Now, if you don't want to wait those 2 years to know if you're going to break even, and you shouldn't, you're going to start to look at some early indicators about how your program is going. To do that, take a look at your program activity. Are your customers looking at the rewards you have available through your web page? Are you seeing customers asking for their cards to be punched if you're using those? Do your customers read and engage with your program emails when you send them? Are they clicking on them? Customers' engagement and excitement with a program early on is really important because initially, remember, they're only coming in a few times or less a year for service. So you need to maintain that awareness, maintain that excitement, and don't let them forget about the program before their next appointment. That's why those monthly status emails we talked about, or even a profile login on your website, are so helpful. As a reminder, again, this is not a 3-day weekend sale. This is a plan to boost the value of customers over their entire life. So it is going to take some time to see those real results. That said, start looking for indicators within 3 to 6 months. Early identifiers of long-term success are going to include a rise in your repair orders and an increase in customer appointments. After you hit the 6-month point, start to compare against the same 6-month period as the prior year. How many additional first and second service appointments do you have? How's your average ticket size looking? At 1 year, do the exact same thing and also look at average number of visits per year for your customers, plus average annual spend per customer versus the previous year. You should start to see really significant differences. Now, how significant? A study completed in 2012 found that loyalty members visited service departments 2.8 times per year versus only 1.8, and they spent nearly double annually compared to non-members. Now, I said before, these programs are a lot of work, and that's true. But customer loyalty, it's not some abstract feeling that you can't quantify. There's a real dollar amount associated with customers' loyalty and how they feel about you. So to recap, when you're building this loyalty program, you want to identify your service opportunities, make sure it's going to be worth it for you. Be clear about your goals and expectations. Work with key stakeholders to build out that process. Promote your program internally by building that excitement, and then externally with your customers before finally measuring that success over a long period of time. So with some planning and some patience, I think you'll find yourself with a loyal customer base that's going to spend more money with you, plus advocate for your dealership. So I do hope you enjoyed it, and more importantly, that you found it useful. And I'll be very happy to take any questions that you might have at this time.
Okay, that was some great information. We are now in the question and answer portion of the webinar. Please feel free to submit your questions to the question box on the right. Brian, we have a few questions already sent, and one of the questions asked was, will the deck be available for download? Brian's information is on the screen right now. His email, brian.schmidt@VinSolutions.com, or his phone number is 913-213-8689. Please feel free to request any information or maybe set up a time where you guys could talk in more detail any questions you guys may have. But the first question here is, how do I manage the enrollment process?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question, the enrollment process for the program. So realistically, this is going to happen in a few different ways. People should be able to enter both at the store or online. So if they're at the store, either your service rep or your sales rep, whoever's having that interaction, it needs to be able to indicate that customer is a rewards member through maybe a custom field or a custom status within your CRM. So if you're using punch cards, it would also be helpful to scan and store a copy of that card and then associate it with that record. If your customer's at home, then you should have a form online that asks for that same basic info, first name, last name, email, and then push that status using either a custom field or a custom status to a matching record in your CRM. If you don't have a CRM yet, then simple Excel sheet or other database can work in a pinch. You're essentially just looking to indicate yes or no a customer is example of or is a member of your program.
Perfect. Brian, we have another question just came in. Is we are a VinConnect customer and wondering if you offer consulting services to help us engineer, traffic, and manage a new program.
Yeah, great question. So what we'd want to do in that case, and we can talk about this more in detail, I think, after the webinar, but reach out to me at that email there or that phone number, and what we'll actually do is work with your performance manager to identify which of those challenges do you face, if any. Take a look at your current service offerings, what's being taken advantage of, and then your performance manager, with my input, we can start to work with you to put something together, show you how to track that, and how to identify whether or not it's being successful. For questions like that, I always encourage your performance manager to be your immediate go-to. And in this case, they'll reach out to me and we'll be able to work together.
Perfect. Brian, we have another great question here. Do you recommend an expiration date for rewards?
Oh, that is good. Yeah, that's a great question, because we did talk about that with coupons, how they're one of the problems is they have an expiration date. So I do actually encourage that, yes, they should have an expiration date, but they should not be as limiting or as narrow as a coupon. They need to be longer term. These are good, they're loyal customers, and you don't want to be too stringent with them. But an expiration date, you really need it for two reasons. One, it does promote that sense of urgency that a coupon does with your customers. And remember, one point of the program is that those rewards drive additional business. That's going to be more likely with that urgency. Two, this one's a little less obvious. The other reason, it has to do with a loyalty program term called breakage. So breakage is just a term that means unredeemed points, right? So on average for programs, about a third of all the points or rewards that your customers accumulate are going to go unused. So the expiration date is important because if you don't have it, over time you're going to start to accumulate just years worth of unclaimed points or rewards, and that's going to count as a liability for your business. So it is a discussion you're going to need to have with your finance director. The decision needs to be made, how much liability basically are you willing to absorb over time in exchange for customer loyalty? And then depending on that answer, set that expiration date.
Perfect. And we have another question here. It says, who creates the message and creative development for the loyalty program? Loyalty program manager or campaign manager?
Oh, okay, great. So your loyalty program manager is going to have a lot of input, absolutely. But the campaign manager is your real communicator out of the pair. He or she ultimately is going to need to develop that exact messaging, the copy, the creative, how it looks for your customers. Communications is really where your campaign manager lives. Your program manager should focus on the actual program, the results, the financials. They need to focus on the program development. Campaign manager can handle the communication.
Okay, we're going to take one more question, and if you have any further questions, please feel free to email or call Brian at any time. He is going to be available today and tomorrow to answer any questions or any demo requests you guys may have. Brian, how should I keep track of rewards?
So it's actually a big question. There are a few software tools out there that do specialize in managing rewards accumulation and also the redemption process. I don't want to refer a specific one to a general audience like this, but just a really quick Google search for loyalty program software. I've done it a few times leading up to a webinar to make sure we'll put you just on the right path. Those tools, you're going to use those to manage the rewards and the redemptions specifically. And then you'll use your CRM to keep track of the results more in general. we looked at those filters. Your CRM should be keeping track of, am I meeting my goals? How much of my customer base is actually in this program versus out of it. Plus, you'll be using your CRM to promote the program to non-members. So as we look at those filters, run those. If you're keeping track of whether or not someone's involved in a program, yes or no, you should be able to very quickly identify both opportunity and results. So CRM will keep track of opportunities and results. You probably will, specifically for some of the more complex programs, need to get a dedicated loyalty program management tool.
Great. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar, and thank you VinSolutions and Brian Smith for some great content. To view this webinar on demand and future digital dealer webinars, please visit digitaldealer.com/webinars. Thank you and have a great day.